On what was one of the craziest days that I can remember in college football, the Big 12 had some big winners and really, really big losers. It might be you. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Today, let's go through all of Saturday's slate. We will also cover how Oklahoma State, UCF, Kansas, and Baylor have all announced in a joint press conference they will be cutting their football programs effective immediately. And in the last segment, TCU is doing the same, but worse. They're going to join the Pac-12. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. It is now 2:51 Eastern time at the time of recording in the AM, because that's what we do in the Big 12. We play from the West Coast, the East Coast, and Texas Tech just wrapped up a huge gutsy win against Arizona to move to 5-1. Now, myself, I was at UCF, Florida, and can tell you off the riff of this show, it is stunning that UCF just can't throw a forward pass. There's not one person on that roster. Like, Kobe Hudson is a very good wide receiver, could be one of the best in the country, but no one knows how to just take football, throw football forward into hands of Kobe Hudson. And then I question, for Kansas, Jalen Daniels, like, this was one of the games where Jalen Daniels looked competent. Where when you have Grimm to Highshaw to Neal to Skinner, who was fantastic, by the way, and Jalen Daniels actually plays well, and you lose the football game, it makes me question, why do you exist? How do you exist? What is it about Kansas that makes them so happy to lose? Like, allergic to winning is probably the best way to put it. Like, just incapable of closing out games to win. And I'm focusing on losers first. Let's focus on losers. If your team won the game, you were the reason they won. This isn't Oklahoma State lost. No. West Virginia won. But let's focus on some teams in the Big 12 who have been big bad. Oklahoma State too. What? You were a preseason contender for a Big 12 championship. There were people across the country, namely Oklahoma State fans, who said, yep, that's it. We're bringing everybody back. We got a bunch of guys from that bad defense who are back. And you know what? They can be even worse this season. But what's worse than our bad defense? Our extra bad offense. Let's bench our starting quarterback, Alan Bowman, for Garrett Rangel. And then by the time we bring him in, and he actually is pretty good, it's already over. The game's out of hand. Yeah, we can make a change. Oh, Oklahoma State? Yeah, our starting quarterback went 10 for 19, 116 yards, 2 interceptions. It's Alan Bowman. His QBR per ESPN, 12.1. I can count that high. When your QBR is a number I can count to, that's trouble, man. I went to Baylor. That's trouble. Ollie Gordon? No, I don't even want to do that. Ollie Gordon was not good again. 13 carries, 50 yards. The team, Oklahoma State is a team, 21 carries, 36 yards rushing. Oh my gosh. That's like hard to do, man. 21 carries, 36 yards, 1.7 yards per carry. Ollie Gordon was a preseason Heisman candidate. You have maybe the best running back in college football, and you did that? Baylor, I don't know why you have a football team if you're just going to waste it on Dave Aranda, who is very happy with Tuesday's practice. Like, great practice. And the second you determine Baylor's bad in the first half, good in the second half, just can't close out games, then they do this. They're good in the first half, terrible in the second half, and then even more terrible when it matters most in the fourth quarter. For Kansas, UCF, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and I'll get more in depth to them, bad. Arizona, you're not in that boat. I get it. Ted McMillan's fumble late, not good. Noah Fafita going 28 for 49, 2 interceptions, that's not good. He wasn't the quarter, and he hasn't necessarily been this season the quarterback we were promised. But I don't think Arizona's in a tough spot. Texas Tech is just that team. I rode them all week. They were one of my best bets this week, as well as Iowa State covering, as well as Houston covering, which those all happened, as well as West Virginia winning. I finally had a really good best bets this week at UCF money line because why not? And they got trounced. This was, for some of you, a very bad week. For others, here's what I learned. Here's what I learned about each winning team. For Texas Tech, you're 5-1, 3-0 in Big 12 play. I get it. You struggled against ACU. I get it. You lost to Washington State. Those things don't matter now. You're officially a Big 12 contender. For Iowa State, you are the best team in the Big 12 conference. The analytics, the metrics all show that the balance you have offensively, defensively, and then Caden Matson and special teams make you the most even-keeled team in this conference. It's not, hey, Iowa State's really good if their offense shows up. No. We know what your offense is going to do. We know what your defense is going to do. Oh, I mean, Baylor's they can be really good if the offense shows. We know the defense is good, but if the offense, no. Iowa State, both sides of the ball, and special teams now too, very good. Great. Borderline elite on both sides and balanced. For West Virginia, in a similar vein to Texas Tech, who cares about Pitt? Who cares about West Virginia? When I was talking 3 weeks ago about Neil Brown being on the hot seat, this is the kind of game you win that puts you right back in the driver's seat as the head coach of West Virginia. Do I think that Neil Brown is synonymous with what West Virginia is, that he is the head honcho, the head mountaineer, that he represents the state of West Virginia? I still don't see that. It feels kind of Brian Kelly-ish. But guess what? As long as Brian Kelly wins, as long as Neil Brown wins, you're still the head coach. And this West Virginia team, that first half performance, that defensive performance for a team that did not grade very well early in the season, and especially preseason, your secondary was terrible on paper, and they held Oklahoma State to that kind of performance, to a garbage time touchdown for their backup quarterback. I'm okay with that. 38-14, you're 2-0 in Big 12 play. West Virginia's back. For Arizona State at 4-1, 1-1 in Big 12 play, you're a real football team. You are somebody that the rest of the way can sneak up on people and make them very scared. Utah coming to Tucson, that's huge. Cincinnati on the road, very winnable. Oklahoma State on the road, now very winnable. Tempe, sorry, not to be that guy, Tempe. This is a Sun Devils team with Cam Scatterbo especially, and Sam Levitt, the way that he played especially, that's dangerous and just showed, hey, we can close out close games. Did it against Texas State, did it against Mississippi State, did it against Kansas, all in kind of different ways. But here is hey, we're down. We allowed 14 points in the fourth quarter. Let's go win it. Oh, sweet. We won it. For those teams that won, Houston included, and I'll talk a lot in depth on Houston in the final segment, Houston included, very happy with what you guys did to boost the Big 12 this week. And teams that are proving, hey, there can be a top half of the Big 12 that might not be what you expected. BYU's in that conversation too. They might not be what you expected, but they make the conference good. Coming up, let's talk about what makes the conference bad and who needs to reconsider their coach or their conference affiliation or something. There needs to be change for some of you. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Whether you're hiring for your small business or yourself, like for me, I'm a sole proprietor. I'm a PR practitioner. What am I going to do? Do I use LinkedIn to make a hire? Yes, for an intern. You see a good tweet on the Locked On Big 12 Twitter? Probably from the intern. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job. Over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you go to LinkedIn, you're getting the right people in the right spot. They know what small businesses are wearing so many hats. So they make it very easy for you to create a job listing with job descriptions. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Remember, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Visit them today to make the next big, great hire for you and your company. Every week we show up here and talk about the biggest losers of the week. Who would have thought that TCU is in that conversation? Who would have thought my preseason Big 12 champion Kansas is in that conversation? Or Oklahoma State with, we return all of our production. We return all of the defenders on a bad defense. Who would have thought those teams are the bottom dwellers of the Big 12 right now? Record-wise, that's the case. Who would have thought, not me, that UCF, that I believed would be a Big 12 championship contender, would put on a performance like that? And I'll start there. I'll get to the losers of the Big 12 this week, because I just, sometimes you've got to dissect how teams who had expectations missed those. What went wrong, where it went wrong. Like for TCU, there was an inkling, and I'll get more in depth with them later. There's an inkling of, okay, maybe, because Zion Chris, the Houston quarterback, wasn't the Houston quarterback. Like Willie Fritz went to his backup. TCU was very underprepared. Do you get an excuse for that? No. Should I also give you a bit more leeway than a Oklahoma State who knew what to expect against West Virginia? Maybe. But like UCF, you brought a quarterback in, and Kobe Hudson's very good. RJ Harvey is very good. I'm at this game, and I'm wondering, at what point will UCF throw the ball forward? Like, we're getting 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left, 2-minute warnings coming up. UCF's down by 11, hasn't been able to do anything offensively. We should probably throw the ball. No, we're not going to. It is stunning. The Gus Malzahn, this guy who went from Shiloh Christian High School in Arkansas to UCF to build an impeccable offense with the recruiting base of Florida, of Orlando, Florida, has the keys to build something so special, and then opts for a quarterback who doesn't know how to throw the ball forward. And even if he did, he's not given the option to. That is stunning, man. Like, it's funny. I read KJ Jefferson's stat lines week in and week out, and I chuckle a little bit. He was 12 for 22. He completed 12 passes the whole game in a game where UCF never led. In a game where UCF was down 24-3 at halftime, you would expect at least 30 passes from a quarterback on a competent football team who is down by 21 points at the break, because that's just what you do to get back into a game where you're down by 3 touchdowns. You throw the football. A QBR per ESPN of 16.7, 12 for 22, only threw the ball 22 times, only had 12 completions, 165 yards, interception. Well, he must have been good on the ground, right? 12 carries, negative 18 yards. UCF had 165 passing yards, 108 rushing yards. That is 273 total yards of offense. Do you understand? 273 yards is what a majority of college quarterbacks, a good portion at least of college quarterbacks, are tossing on the regular today. Rocco Beck did it against Baylor this week. Like, guys just know Fafita did it in a losing effort for Arizona. Jalen Daniels in a losing effort for Kansas. He's right there. UCF did that total yardage. How do you fall apart like this offensively? Gus Malzahn's supposed to be the big guru. National championship as an OC at Auburn. Cam Newton. Oh, KJ Jefferson could be Cam Newton. Those were the comparisons that Malzahn was making. No. Oklahoma State. Oh, Garrett Rangel's in. Oh, wait, check the watch, and we are so down, it's not even funny. We can't win this football game. Let's put in the backup now, huh? You rode Alan Bowman last year to a Big 12 championship, and you rode Bowman is kind of a bit of a misnomer. He was there. He existed. Was he the catalyst? No. Was the defense the catalyst? Also, no, not a very good defense. Who was the catalyst then? Oh, that'd be Ollie Gordon. Where was Ollie Gordon in this game? Huh? Oh, maybe he's banged up. He didn't play, right? Because I would have heard something about him. Oh, no, he did. 13 carries, 50 yards. In an effort where Oklahoma State as a team had 21 carries for 36 yards. Yeah. So, like, as bad as UCF was offensively, Alan Bowman and Garrett Rangel, and Rangel kind of saved the day there statistically at the end. 191 yards passing combined. 36 yards rushing for Oklahoma State. That is 230. We're looking at truly sub 230 yard performance from these guys. 227. Oh, Mike, what are you doing? What are your coordinators doing? You were supposed to be a Big 12 championship contender. And this is what you're doing. Putting up less than 230 yards of total offense against West Virginia, whose defense doesn't grade very well. They're a good football team. Their defense does not grade very well. Garrett Green, 9 for 15. He only had to throw the ball 15 times. Clock management. Game management. Nico Marchiol, baby. They threw the ball 16 times as a team, ran the ball 65 times for 389 yards. Just held on to the football. Hudson Clement is still my dad. I love him. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in the entire Big 12. And there's Kansas. Can you find a more heartbreaking way to lose? How? How do you keep doing this? The fourth quarter, it finally looks like, hey, late touchdown. All you got to do is have the defense seal it, and the Kansas defense has been pretty darn good this season compared to an offense that struggles. And Jalen Daniels, a QBR of 80.5, that's as good as he's played all year. That's as good as I've seen him all year. Devin Neal does his part. I have 14 carries, 71 yards. Your quarterback's an 80.5 grade for the game. The offense puts up in total 31 points. What can the defense do? Hello, Sam Levitt. 14 for 24. Of his 14 passes that he completed, 4 of them were for touchdowns. That's a pretty good ratio. Then there's Cam Scatterbo, 186 yards on the ground. Hey, I could have told you what Arizona State's going to do. They're going to run the football. They're going to pass in short yardage in the red zone. See, like Cam Scatterbo's touchdown totals don't match his rushing yards. They haven't all year. They're going to pass the ball in short yardage, especially in the red zone. Spread you out. I don't know if Kansas got that memo. Then there's Baylor. Oh, no. Should have fired Dave Aranda in week 5 of 2023. Week 5 of last year. I'm sick. I've been sick. I think this is why. I don't think it's because we're playing games that end at 2:45 in the morning. I don't think it's because of Arizona and Texas Tech this week. I think it's because I have to watch Dave Aranda every week. Say, oh, look, Drake, look, oh, keys in front of your, look at this, look, we might win. Oh, we're up 14-3. Oh, 21-19. Uh-oh, late, we have a chance. You don't. You never do. Special teams blunders, the defense falling apart in the second half, 24-7, you got outscored. Like, yeah, but Baylor's a second half team. No, they're not. Baylor's not anything. Baylor controls the middle 8. Baylor's got a great defense. Baylor does X, Y, Z. No. You don't have an identity. Oh, but they're a team that can't close, can't finish it, but they play great that last 2 quarters. No. At this point, you're too inconsistent to be labeled anything but bad. It's expensive school. I went there for 4 years. I got a degree. I just want to watch good football. How much is the buyout? Let me know. I'll rally my friends together. Most of them are CPAs in Dallas. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Stark, Florida, after watching UCF do that. I'm excited for tomorrow. I think the negative vibes are mostly from me being sick. Sorry. I thought the Big 12 was fun today. It's always fun. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, which is not Big 12, but cool, you know. Crazy the way that all panned out. I just feel like these teams that were supposed to be good aren't. And the ones that are, you better keep being good. We can have multiple teams in the college football playoff. I would love that. West Virginia rocks. I love those guys. They're kind of fun. They might be my team the rest of the way. I might pick them up. Coming up, TCU in Houston. I instant reacted to this from the passenger seat of a car because I've been traveling for this UCF deal, which was a waste. And it was fun. You know, the swamp was great. And I'll talk more about that this week, but like a waste based on how they played. Like, can you just show up, throw one forward pass, please? Coming up, TCU, Houston, Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. I went to UCF and Florida this weekend. And thank God I did not pay an arm and a leg based on how UCF played. I paid bottom dollar for elite seats thanks to Game Time. They have curated deals to make it easier to find the best price on great seats. They have super deals, seat views before you buy, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and even more. Game Time picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. All in pricing. Toggle that feature. You get the total up front. No surprise fees at checkout. That seat view, oh, it showed me that I'm going to be in like 50-yard line. Boom. There's the field. And lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's right. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. What was that? On the same day, coincidentally, the same day that Houston gets its first Big 12 football victory, TCU accepts its invite to the new Pac-12. How? And I want to address the obvious here. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm in a car as we speak. I had no idea that I would have to record a podcast tonight. It was supposed to be a TCU blowout where we all just kind of move on. We recap it on Sunday and whatever. But no, I've got buddies of mine. I'm at the UCF Florida game right now. And in the hotel room, it's like, guys, can I record a podcast in here? And they're like, no, it's got awfully late. Go do it in the car. So here I sit in the passenger seat of what looks like a Hyundai. I don't know what that logo is, because Houston just shocked TCU. Now, Houston is obviously still a work in progress under construction. I'm just going to use the props that I can find across the car. And for TCU, they couldn't really tie it together. I just don't. Willie Fritz, I knew in year 2, year 3, and you can go back to the show where I reacted to this hire, would have Houston in contention for a bowl, would have Houston as a sneaky team in the Big 12. How about year number 1? They're 2-4, 1-2 in conference play, and they still have that ugly loss to UNLV, and they're not an elite football team, of course, but this, a road win against TCU where fans didn't show up, and you should know by now, I am effectively an alumni by choice of TCU. I've worn the jerseys. I went to the national championship, and guess what? Speaking of that national championship, the same coach that was the head coach in that game might not be the head coach of the Frogs next season. Let me pause on TCU. I typically, when things like this happen, there's a scary guy walking down the street. I've got to lock the car. Houston beat TCU, so I'm in a car recording a podcast. Scary people walking around. I have to lock a car in the middle of a podcast because of what just happened in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm telling you, I want to give all of the flowers to Houston possible, because Donovan Smith had his best game of the year, 2 for 2, 13 yards. But it was Zion Chris, 15 for 18, a touchdown through the air, 97 rushing yards, including that 70-yard rush. As I'm watching this game, I'm thinking, why wasn't Willie Fritz doing this sooner? You're winning with players who weren't your own. They were Dana Holgerson's, and he's now on the staff at TCU, and he's probably not having a very good night. And across the way, TCU once again couldn't run the football. And Josh Hoover, who is a 300-yard throwing machine every time out, couldn't throw the football against a Houston defense that's just that good. Did the Houston offense play an elite football game? No. They had over 200 yards rushing, still only 150 yards passing. Zion Chris was electric, sure, but the defense of Houston wasn't just good. They were superb, if not elite, in this game. When I tell you, A.J. Halsey, after the 2 interceptions in what was effectively the first quarter, like the kid just balled out early in this game. What a talent to watch. And as good as he is, no doubt, Josh Hoover, what are you doing? Hoover looked like a kid who was a freshman quarterback, like couldn't play quarterback. Like, what? Why? 23 for 37, and the 14 he missed weren't a great 14. Where was the offensive line? And 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions and 233 yards. We need the passing game to be good, and it just wasn't good. And Jack Beck is still good at football, and J.P. Richardson's good at football. TCU has pieces. Savion Williams is good at football. We know those things. We know those things. And I just don't. I know Houston's defense is good. I know they're good. And I know the offense with a new quarterback is at least competent, sure. But you went in a game where, and I gave Houston a bit of its flowers there. I can give them even more. But I have to get to TCU. My first nature, again, in these upsets is to go right at the team that got upset. And now I can't hold off on covering TCU. Yeah, the team that had no points in its last 8 quarters of football, couldn't score a touchdown, couldn't kick a field goal. You let them have 30. Their defense helped electrify the offense, but you let them have 24 in the first half. You let Houston cook and then cruise in the second half. 30-19, you lost by 11 points at home. At home. And this isn't like TCU lost to West Virginia or even Kansas or Arizona State or Cincinnati, who you might consider to be the back end of the Big 12. No, it's not even like you lost to Baylor, who's been competitive. You lost to Houston, who has been drubbed offensively. Drubbed. And you looked pitiful. There was not a point where TCU was in control of this football game. They looked pitiful. And I'm talking about the same TCU whose head coach is named Sonny Dykes, who took you to the national championship game. But in the same way that Baylor's looking at Dave Aranda and saying, hey, bud, it worked that one year with somebody else's guys. You've had enough time to get your scheme, your system, your players in the front door. And this is not what a football program is supposed to look like. A couple weeks ago when Dykes was thrown out against SMU and showed his butt on his way off the field, it didn't look pretty. He came back and won a football game. Then he lost to Houston at home. And Kaz Kazadi, the strength and conditioning coach, who was wrapped up in the middle of the Baylor scandal, whose name was all throughout the reports in the Baylor scandal. Kendall Briles, last name Briles, whose name was all through the reports of the Baylor scandal. Now, Art Briles takes the ultimate downfall. That's the guy who can't coach college football ever again. Kendall Briles, Kaz Kazadi, who were in the text messages, they get off free. One guy takes that burden. Deservedly so, by the way. Those two guys don't have to take any fall for what happened to Baylor. Now they do. And they should career-wise for what happened to that university, and I could go on and on about that topic, especially as a Baylor alumni. They should have faced so much more. For the text messages, for the actions afterward, for the way those guys behaved and handled themselves, especially those reports are true. If many of what was reported about Kaz Kazadi and Kendall Briles is true, and at the very base of this, they come from Baylor, scandal-ridden, one of the biggest college football scandals in America. TCU says, yeah, we'll hire those guys. Now, losing doesn't scratch the surface of what they deserve. But this, still what you get. And if you're Sonny Dykes, there was an option in the world to hire somebody as your offensive coordinator not named Briles. You could just hire a guy not named Kendall Briles, and you still hired Kendall Briles. This is where it's gotten you. You can't run the football to save your life. And when Josh Hoover is trailing in a football game and has to go find a way to win it, he can't. Hoover's great when playing ahead, yeah. But when you say, hey, Josh, could you go be elite here late? We're down a lot to SMU. We're down a lot to Houston. Go win it for us. No, not his forte. Well, maybe we could establish the run game early and get an elite. No, couldn't do that. Stunning what TCU just showed you against Houston. And stunning what, I mean, you've seen TCU do it a couple times now between Houston and SMU. Just be bad. And for the Houston Cougars, I mean, I knew they fell behind against UCF. Let's not forget that. For the Houston Cougars, this is the building block of something really cool, I think. Truly cool. Parker Ainsworth said it this week, host of Locked On Cougs. They're going to trip somebody up. You're going to see. They're going to trip somebody up. Someone is going to be embarrassed by Houston. It was TCU. And at this point, I think you have to look at Sonny Dykes and say, man, you're calling the shots. You made these decisions, and it's just not working out. We don't look like a football program. Jeremiah Donati has a tough decision coming up, especially if the rest of this season shakes out like that. You hired the Baylor guys. You can't, look at our new OC. Look at him with his family. Welcome to Fort Worth. Welcome to Cowtown. No. I mean, look, here's your result. Congrats. That's what you wished for. That's what you wished for. That's crazy, dude. This league's awesome, isn't it? TCU has no business losing a game like this. And for Houston, how gritty and awesome it is to see you show out like that. This has been and always will be. Come back tomorrow for more breakdown of this weekend. Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose grande.